Today we are learning how to compare fractions, and we've learned that there are 3 questions you can ask yourself to help you to compare fractions, see what's bigger, see what's smaller. The first question, number 1, ask yourself, are the denominators the same? Now remember, the denominator is our part in the bottom, our denominator. So if we have the fraction 1/3, that means our whole is cut up into 3 equal parts, and one of those parts is shaded. We're comparing that to the fraction 2/3. Our whole is still split up into 3 equal parts, but this time we have 2 parts shaded. So since the denominators are the same, the bigger numerator means we're going to have more slices. So 1/3 is less than 2/3. Now the opposite is true if the numerators are the same. Question number 2, are the numerators the same? If we're comparing 1/2 and 1/100th, our numerators are both 1. However, our denominators are different. In this case, 1/2 is if we have a whole pizza and we cut it into 2 parts. The 1 is showing all this part, 1/2 of the pizza. But it's very different if we take that same pizza and cut it up into 100 parts. Then we only have one little teeny tiny itty bitty part of the pizza. So in this case, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the slices. So the smaller denominator is going to be the one that's bigger. So 1/2 is greater than 1/100th. So it's really nice if you look at a number and you can just see that the numerators are the same or the denominators are the same. You can compare that way. But sometimes it doesn't just work out that way. So you have to go to question number 3. Do I have to make an equivalent fraction? There's 2 different ways you can try to make an equivalent fraction. You could change the smaller denominator to the bigger denominator. For example, in 2/3, we're comparing it to 5/6. I can see the 3 here. I know 3 times 2 is going to get me to 6. So I can take my fraction, 2 times 3, and multiply it by 2/2 to get an equivalent fraction, 4/6. Now I have 4/6. I'm comparing it to 5/6. I know that my denominators are the same, so the bigger numerator is going to have more slices. So 5/6 is the one with more slices. So now I know that 2/3 is less than 5/6. Sometimes you can't change the smaller denominator into the bigger denominator, so we have to change both denominators. And this is a little more work, but I just know if I have 1/5, 5 times something isn't going to get me to 8, because 5 times 2 is 10, and that's already over. So I'm going to have to change both my denominators. For 1/5, I'm going to multiply by 8/8, which is my denominator, and 2/8, and I get 8/40. In 2/8, I have to multiply by my denominator 5/5 to get 10/40. Now I have a situation where both of my denominators are the same, they're in 40ths, and I'm looking for the bigger numerator. So 10/40 is going to be bigger than 8/40, so I put in my less than symbol. 1/5 is less than 2/8. Let's practice comparing fractions with practice 11-6. The directions say write greater than or less than for each circle. It also says you may use fraction strips to help. Let's ignore that. We're going to use our 3 questions that we just learned to help us. So number 1, 1/2 being compared to 3/10. So first I need to ask myself, are the denominators the same? 2 and 10, they are different. So I can check if my numerators are the same. 1 and 3. Also different. So I have to move on to question 3. Do I have to make an equivalent fraction? And it looks like I do. But I know that 2 times something will get me to 10. So I can change my fraction 1/2 to something over 10. So I know that 2 times 5 equals 10, so I can multiply by 5 over 5. 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10. So now, instead of having 1/2, I have 5/10. If I'm comparing 5/10 and 3/10, my numerator is bigger, so more pieces out of 10. So I'm going to put in my greater than sign. Let's try number 2, 8/12 and 5/12. Well, I can ask myself, are the denominators the same? 12 and 12, yes they are. So I know that 8/12 is like having 8 slices of 12 that are cut into 12, and 5 slices that are cut into 12. I would rather have 8 slices, so I'm going to put my greater than sign again. In number 2 for my work, I can just write same denominator, because I didn't actually have to do anything. All I needed to do was compare my denominators. Let's try number 3. 3/8 compared to 1/2. First, I need to ask myself, are the denominators the same? 8 and 2. Nope, they're different. Let's check the numerators. 3 and 1. Again, they're different. So I'm going to have to do step 3, make an equivalent fraction. I can see that I can turn my 2 into an 8. So I'm going to take 1/2, and I'm going to make it equal something over 8. So 2 times what equals 8? 2 times 4 equals 8. So I'll multiply 1/2 by 4 over 4 to get 4/8. Then I can change my 1/2 over here to 4/8. If I'm comparing 3/8 to 4/8, the numerator is bigger, so I'm going to put a less than sign. 3/8 is less than 4/8. Let's look at number 4. Oops, and my numbers are wrong, so I'll just change that to 4. Change that one to 7. Okay, number 4. 3/3 and 7/8. Well, I know already that 3/3 is 1, because 3 over 3 equals 1. So I know if I have 1 whole, it's going to be greater than 7/8. But I should check, I can do my math to check, because my denominators are not the same, my numerators are not the same. So let's prove it by making an equivalent fraction. I can't change 3 into 8. 3 times something doesn't get me to 8. So I'm going to have to change my fractions into each other. I'm going to have to multiply 3/3 times 8 over 8. Tree times skate equals denti floor 24. Tree times skate equals denti floor 24. But that doesn't help me compare it to 7/8 yet. Now I have to change 7/8 and multiply that by 3 over 3. Surfing times tree equals denti sun 21. 8 times 3, or skate times tree, equals denti floor 24. So now I have the same denominator, 24, and I can look at the numerators to compare. So 24 over 24 is going to be bigger than 21 over 24. So if I look up at number 4, I change 3 over 3, 3/3, or 1 whole, into 24 24ths, and I changed 7/8 into 21 over 24ths. 21 24ths. So 24 24ths is bigger, just like I thought, since it was 1 whole. Take a look at number 5, 3/5 compared to 1/3. First, I'm going to look at the denominators, 5 and 3. They're different. So I check out the numerators, 3 and 1. They're different. So I have to make an equivalent fraction. My smaller number is 3. I can't change that into 5, so I'm going to have to change them both. So 3/5, I need to multiply it by 3 over 3 to get tree times tree equals line 9. 5 times 3 equals 15. I get 9/15. So I can come up here and change my 3/5 to 9/15. But I can't compare 9/15 to 1/3. So now I have to change 1/3 and multiply it by 5 over 5. So I get 1 times 5 is 5, 3 times 5 is 15. Now I have two numbers that have a denominator of 15. So 9/15 and 5/15. 9/15 is bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and put my greater than sign. 9/15 is greater than 5/15. Let's look at number 6. 1/4 compared to 2/4. I check my denominators. Ooh, they're the same, so that makes it easy for me. I just have to compare my numerators. I have a 1 and I have a 2. 2 is bigger, so I put in my less than sign. 1/4 is less than 2/4. To show my work for number 6, I can just say same denominator, because I could just compare those without actually having to do the math work. Let's look at number 7. 5/6 compared to 5/8. First, I check the denominators. They're different. But if I check the numerators, 5 and 5, they are the same. Now I have to remember, if my numerators are the same, it means that I am going to have smaller slices. So, would I rather have a pizza that is cut up into 6 slices and have 5 of those pieces, or have a pizza that is cut up into 8 slices and have 5 of those pieces? I'm going to want my slices to be bigger. So that means 5/6 is going to be bigger. So 5/6 is greater than 5/8. For number 7, I can write same numerator. Let's look at number 8. 7/12 compared to 4/5. Check the denominators, 12 and 5, different. Check the numerators, 7 and 4, different. So I'm going to have to make an equivalent fraction. Can I change my smaller number and my bigger number, 5 to 12? Well, if I count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, it goes right past 12. So I'm going to have to change them into each other. So I'll start with 7/12, and I'll multiply by my denominator in my other fraction, 5/5. 7 times 5 equals 35. 12 times 5 equals 60. And I can change 7/12 into 35/60. Now I'm going to have to take 4/5 and change it by multiplying 12/12. If you need a calculator for this one, you can use it. 4 times 12 equals 48. 5 times 12 equals 60. So now I can change 4/5 to 48/60. So I would rather have 48 slices out of 60 than 35, so I put in my less than symbol. 35/60 is less than 48/60. Let's look at this last one here, number 9. 10 and 10, my denominators are the same. This makes it easy for me. I want more pieces. So comparing 3 and 6, 6 is bigger, so I'm going to put my less than sign. 3/10 is less than 6/10. For my evidence in my box, I can put same denominator. Nice work, everyone. See you later.